Dr. Elena Vasquez had been staring at the computer screen for 3 hours straight. The coffee in her mug had gone cold, and her eyes burned from the bright monitor in the dark observatory. But she couldn't look away. Not when the signal's dancing. Across her screen were unlike anything she'd ever seen. Elena worked as a scientist at the Arecibo Observatory, spending her days listening to space. Most people thought her job was boring. Day after day, she analyzed radio waves from distant stars, searching for signs of intelligent life. Her colleagues often joked that she was wasting her time, but Elena believed. She knew that somewhere out there, among the billions of stars, someone was trying to communicate. Tonight was different. The pattern on her screen wasn't random noise from a dying star or interference from a satellite. It was structured, mathematical, almost like a language. Elena's heart raced as she ran the signal through every analysis. Programs she had, each test confirmed what she barely dared to hope. This was artificial. Someone or something had created this signal. She called her teammate, Dr. James Chen, even though it was 2 in the morning. James had been working with Elena for 5 years. He was the only person who shared her passion for finding extraterrestrial life. When he arrived at the observatory, still wearing his pajamas under his coat, Elena showed him the data. "You sure about this?" James asked, his voice trembling with excitement. "This could change everything," Elena nodded. "I've checked it 20 times. This isn't natural. Someone sent this signal." They spent the next 6 hours working together, using every computer in the facility to decode the mysterious transmission. As the sun rose over the mountains, they finally cracked it. The signal wasn't just random, it was a message. And what it said made Elena's blood run cold. The message was a distress call. Someone was in trouble, and they were very, very close to Earth. According to the signal, a spacecraft had crashed in the Amazon rainforest just 2 days ago. The pilot was injured and requesting immediate assistance. Elena knew she should report this to the government immediately. There were protocols for situations like this, procedures that had been planned for decades. But she also knew what would happen. The military would take over, and scientists like her would be pushed aside. They might even harm whoever had sent the signal. Instead, Elena made a decision that would change her life forever. She gathered a small team of trusted colleagues, James, Dr. Lisa Park, who specialized in biology, and Dr. Ahmed Hassan, who knew more about alien technology than anyone else on Earth. Together, they decided to find the crash site themselves. The journey to the Amazon took 2 days. Elena had never been so far from civilization. The jungle was hot, humid, and filled with sounds she'd never heard before. Insects buzzed constantly, and strange birds called from the treetops. But nothing prepared her for what they found deep. In the rainforest, spacecraft was unlike anything humans had ever built. It was organic-looking, almost like a giant seed pod, with smooth curves instead of sharp edges. Parts of it glowed with a soft blue light, and the metals seemed to shift and change color as they watched. The crash had torn a massive hole in the jungle canopy, and broken trees lay scattered around the site like matchsticks. "My God," whispered Dr. Park, her voice full of awe. "It's beautiful." Elena approached the craft carefully. The distress signal was still transmitting, but it was much weaker now. They needed to find the pilot quickly. Using Dr. Hassan's equipment, they located an opening in the side of the vessel. It had been torn open during the crash, leaving jagged edges that looked dangerous. Inside the spacecraft, everything was wrong. The walls curved in impossible ways, and what looked like control panels were covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. The air smelled like ozone and something floral that Elena couldn't identify. And in the center of it all, trapped, under a piece of twisted metal, was their first alien. She was clearly female, though definitely not human. Her skin was pale and seemed to glow from within, shifting between white and soft blue as they watched. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, with pupils that changed shape depending on the light. Her hair was long and silver, and it moved even when there was no wind. She was unconscious, and green fluid, probably blood, seeped from several wounds. "She's hurt badly," Dr. Park said, kneeling beside the alien. "But she's breathing at least. I think she's breathing. Alina reached out carefully and touched the alien's hand. It was warm and surprisingly human-like, except for the extra finger. At her touch, the alien's eyes fluttered open. They were completely black for a moment, then filled with swirling colors like an oil slick. The alien tried to speak, but the words were in a language Alina had never heard. It sounded like music mixed with wind chimes. Then, to everyone's amazement, a device on the alien's wrist began to glow. Suddenly, the musical language became clear English. "Please," the alien whispered, her voice weak but surprisingly melodic. "I need help. My people. ... They're coming. You have to understand." Alina felt her heart skip a beat. "Who are you? Where are you from?" The alien tried to sit up but winced in pain. "I am Zareketh, daughter of the Zephyrian Emperor. I came to warn you. My father's fleet is already on its way to your world. They will be here in 18 months. Warn us about what?" Lena asked, though she was afraid she already knew the answer. Zareketh's skin shifted to a deep purple, and her eyes filled with something that looked like sorrow. "About the invasion? My people believe humans are too dangerous to exist. They're coming to conquer your world, or destroy it if you resist." The jungle around them suddenly felt very quiet. Lena could hear her own heartbeat, and the distant sound of the distress signal still transmitting from the broken spacecraft. Everything she had dreamed of, first contact with an alien species, was happening. But it wasn't the peaceful meeting she had imagined. "But you're here," Alina said slowly. You came to warn us. That means you don't agree with them." Zareketh nodded weakly. "I've been studying your species for years. I know you're not what my father thinks you are. Humans have darkness in them, yes, but also incredible light. You create beauty, you love, you sacrifice for others. You deserve a chance to prove yourselves." Dr. Hassan stepped forward.
Ow.
"How do we prove ourselves to beings who can cross the galaxy?" "That's why I'm here," Zareketh said. "I can teach you. There are 3 tests my people use to judge a species. You can pass them, they might let you live, but it won't be easy. We'll have to change everything about how humans think and act." Alina looked at her team. They all had the same expression, a mixture of terror and determination. They had stumbled into something bigger than any of them had imagined. But they also had something no one else on Earth had, an alien princess who was willing to help them survive. "What's the first test?" Alina asked. Zareketh smiled for the first time, and her skin brightened to a warm golden color. "First, we need to get out of this jungle. Then I'll show you how to save your world." Part 2. The weight of worlds as Zareketh's condition improves. She begins to understand human culture and society through Elena's patient teaching. She is horrified by what she learns about humanity's treatment of their own planet and each other. Wars, environmental destruction, and social inequality. According to Zephyrian law, such species are considered chaotic and must be either subjugated or eliminated. However, Zareketh also witnesses humanity's capacity for compassion, creativity, and love through her interactions with Elena's team. She becomes torn between her duty to her people and her growing affection for humans. When military forces finally discover their location, she must decide whether to reveal herself to world leaders or remain hidden.
Ow.
She chooses to address the United Nations, appearing before the General Assembly in a moment that changes human history forever. Her message is both a warning and an offer. The Zephyrians will judge humanity based on their actions over the next year. If humans can prove they are capable of growth and harmony, they may be allowed to join the galactic community as junior partners. If not, they will be conquered. The world erupts into chaos as some nations mobilize for war, while others desperately seek diplomatic solutions. Zareketh realizes that simply delivering the message is not enough. She must actively help humanity pass this impossible test. Part 3. Lessons in Survival. Zareketh begins an intensive education program. Working with Alina and a select group of world leaders, scientists, and philosophers, she reveals the 3 fundamental principles that the Zephyrians use to judge species: environmental stewardship, social harmony, and technological wisdom. The first principle requires humans to demonstrate they can heal their planet rather than destroy it. Zaraketh shares Zephyrian biotechnology that can rapidly restore damaged ecosystems, but warns that the technology will only work if humans fundamentally change their relationship with nature. The second principle demands that humanity resolves its conflicts and create a more equitable society. She explains that the Zephyrians view warfare and extreme inequality as signs of a species. It's too immature for galactic citizenship. This proves to be the most challenging requirement, as centuries of human conflict cannot be easily undone. The third principle involves using technology to enhance life rather than destroy it. Zaraketh. 3 weeks had passed since Elena's team brought Zaraketh to their secret research facility in the mountains of Colorado. The alien princess was healing faster than anyone expected, thanks to the strange silver device she wore around her wrist. Elena watched in amazement as wounds that should have taken months to heal disappeared in just days. But as Zaraketh's body grew stronger, her mind grew more troubled. Elena spent hours each day teaching her about human culture, showing her books, movies, and news reports. The alien princess was a quick learner, absorbing information like a sponge. But with each lesson, her skin grew darker, shifting from its usual golden glow to deep purples and grays. "Your species is fascinating," Zaraketh said one evening, as they sat in the facility's library. She was reading a history book about World War II, her large eyes moving across the pages with incredible speed, but also terrifying. Lena looked up from her own research. "What do you mean?" Zaraketh closed the book and stared at the cover, which showed soldiers in a battlefield. "In the past 100 years, your people have fought to massive wars that killed millions. You've created weapons that could destroy your entire planet. You're slowly poisoning the air and water that keep you alive. And despite having enough resources to feed everyone, millions of humans still go hungry every day." Elena felt a knot form in her stomach. She had spent so much time showing Zaraketh the beautiful parts of humanity, art, music, literature, acts of kindness. But the alien princess was also seeing the dark side. "We're not perfect," Elena admitted, "but we're trying to do better. We're learning from our mistakes." Zaraketh's skin shifted to a sad blue color. "According to my people's laws, species like yours are called chaotic. They spread destruction wherever they go. The Zephyrian Empire has encountered dozens of chaotic species over the millennia. They all follow the same pattern. They consume their resources, fight among themselves, and eventually destroy themselves or others." "What happens to chaotic species when your people find them?" Lena asked, though she was afraid of the answer. "They are either conquered and controlled or eliminated entirely," Zaraketh said quietly. "My father believes it's the only way to protect the galaxy from chaos." Elena stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of Denver twinkling in the distance. Millions of people going about their lives, completely unaware that an alien armada was heading toward Earth. "So that's it? We're already condemned?" "Not necessarily," Zaraketh said, and her skin brightened slightly. "That's why I'm here. I've been studying your species for years, and I've seen things that give me hope. I've watched human mothers risk their lives to save their children. I've seen strangers help each other during disasters. I've read about people who dedicated their entire lives to helping others, even when it cost them everything." She stood and joined Elena at the window. "Your species has incredible potential for both creation and destruction. Which path will you choose?" Over the following days, Elena noticed changes in Zaraketh that had nothing to do with her healing wounds. The alien princess became more curious about everyday human interactions. She watched Elena's team work together, asking questions about their relationships, their families, their dreams. She seemed particularly fascinated by the way humans could disagree about something but still remain friends. "On my world, disagreement often leads to conflict," Zaraketh explained. "I've seen your team argue about scientific theories then. Share meals together as if nothing happened. How do you do that?" Dr. James Chen laughed. "We've learned that being wrong about something doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you human." Zaraketh's skin brightened to a warm yellow. "Beautiful. On Zephyria, being wrong is seen as a weakness. But leaders who make mistakes are often replaced or punished. Maybe that's why your people are so afraid of chaos, Dr. Park suggested. They've never learned that mistakes can lead to growth. But their peaceful research was interrupted one morning when military helicopters appeared on the horizon. Lena's heart sank as she watched them approach the facility. Somehow someone had discovered their secret. "They've found us," Alina said. Running to warn the others, General Morrison led the military team that stormed into the facility. It was a tall, stern man who looked at Zaraketh with a mixture of fascination and suspicion. "Dr. Vasquez, you're under arrest for concealing first contact with an extraterrestrial species." "Wait," Zaraketh said, stepping forward. Her skin had shifted to a deep red color that Alina had never seen before. "I chose to come with them. They saved my life." General Morrison studied the alien princess carefully. "And you are?" "I am Zaraketh, of the Zephyrian Empire. I come with a warning for your species." What followed was the most intense conversation of Elena's life. Zaraketh explained about the coming invasion, the test that humanity would face, and the 18 months they had to prove themselves. General Morrison listened with growing alarm, asking sharp questions about Zephyrian military capabilities. "And weaknesses. So you're telling me that an alien army is coming to either conquer or destroy us?" Morrison asked. "Unless you can prove that humanity deserves to survive," Zaraketh confirmed. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up his radio. "This is Morrison. I need a direct line to the president. We have a Code 7 situation within hours." Alina found herself on a military transport plane heading to New York. Zaraketh had made a decision that would change everything. She was going to address the United Nations General Assembly. "Are you sure about this?" Lena asked as they flew over the Atlantic Ocean. Zaraketh nodded, her skin now a determined silver color. "Your leaders need to know what's coming. They need to understand that I'm here to help, not to conquer." The speech at the United Nations was watched by billions of people around the world. Alina stood in the gallery, watching as Zaraketh walked to the podium. The alien princess looked small and fragile under the bright lights, but her voice carried clearly through the vast assembly hall. "People of Earth," she began, "I come to you not as a conqueror, but as a friend. My people are coming to your world, and they will judge you based on 3 simple tests. You must prove that you can care for your planet, live in peace with each other, and use your knowledge to help rather than harm." The hall erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted questions. Others demanded proof, and a few simply sat in stunned silence. But Zaraketh continued speaking, her skin glowing brighter with each word. "You have 18 months to prepare. I will teach you what you need to know, but the choice is yours. You can work together to pass these tests, or you can continue on your current path and face the consequences." As Alina watched the assembled leaders of the world struggle to process this information, she realized that Zaraketh was right. Simply delivering the message wasn't enough.
Ow.
The real work was just beginning. The world had changed overnight. After Zaraketh's speech at the United Nations, every news channel, social media platform, and conversation revolved around the same question. How could humanity prove itself worthy of survival in just 18 months? Alina found herself at the center of it all. The small research facility in Colorado had been transformed into a bustling international headquarters. Scientists, world leaders, and experts from every field imaginable came to learn from the alien princess. Alina barely recognized her quiet mountain retreat anymore. "I need to speak with world leaders about the 3 tests," Zaraketh told Alina one morning as they watched yet another helicopter land outside. "But I'm concerned about how they'll react to what I have to tell them." Lena had grown close too. The alien princess over the past month. She had watched Zaraketh's skin shift through countless colors as she experienced human emotions for the first time. Right now it was a worried gray-blue color that Alina had come to recognize as deep concern. "What exactly are these tests?" Alina asked. Zaraketh led her to a private room where she had set up what looked like a holographic display. Images of different planets floated in the air, showing worlds both beautiful and destroyed. "My people use 3 principles to judge whether a species is ready for galactic citizenship. I call them the 3 pillars of wisdom." The first image showed a lush green world with crystal-clear oceans and towering forests. The first pillar is environmental stewardship, species. must prove they can care for their planet instead of destroying it. They must show they understand that they are part of nature, not its master. Elena's heart sank. We're not doing very well on that front. No, you're not, Zaraketh agreed, sadly. Your oceans are filled with plastic. Your forests are disappearing. Your air is poisoned in many places. According to my people's standards, Earth is a dying world. The second image showed beings of different shapes and sizes working together on some kind of massive construction project. The second pillar is social harmony. A species must prove they can work together for the common good. They must show they can resolve conflicts without violence and share resources fairly. Elena thought about the wars happening around the world, the hunger, the inequality. That's going to be even harder than the first one, yes, Zaraketh said, her skin shifting to a deeper blue. But the third pillar might be the most challenging of all. The final image showed incredible technology, machines that seemed to be alive, tools that could heal instead of harm, spacecraft that moved like living creatures. The third pillar is technological wisdom. Species must prove they can create tools that enhance life rather than destroy it. They must show they understand that power comes with responsibility. Elena stared at the images. How are we supposed to achieve all of this in 18 months? Some of these problems have existed for centuries. That's where I come in, Zarika said, and her skin brightened to a hopeful yellow. I can teach you. I can share some of our knowledge. But the changes must come from within humanity itself. My people will know if you're just pretending to. Be better. Over the following weeks, Zaraketh began working with teams of scientists and world leaders. For the first pillar, she shared Zephyrian biotechnology that could clean polluted water, restore damaged soil, and even bring dead forests back to life. But there was a catch. This technology only works if you truly understand and respect nature, she explained to a group of environmental scientists. It responds to intention, not just action. If you try to use it while still thinking of nature as something to exploit, it will fail. Dr. Rodriguez, a marine biologist from Mexico, raised her hand. How do we prove we understand nature? Zaraketh smiled, and her skin glowed with warm golden light. You learn to listen. Every tree, every river, every animal has a voice. When you truly hear them, the technology will respond. Some scientists were skeptical, but others embraced the idea. Within weeks, test sites around the world began showing miraculous results. Dead coral reefs bloomed with new life. Polluted rivers ran clear, barren lands turned green, but only in places where the humans working there had genuinely changed. Their relationship with the environment, the second pillar, proved more challenging. Zaraketh worked with diplomats and world leaders, teaching them Zephyrian methods of conflict resolution. On my world, we learned long ago that violence always creates more problems than it solves, she explained during a video conference with leaders from around the globe. But what about self-defense? Asked President Chen from Taiwan. What if someone attacks you? Defense is different from aggression, Zaraketh replied. My people have ways of protecting themselves without causing harm. But more importantly, we've learned to address the root causes of conflict before violence becomes necessary. She taught them about resource sharing, about understanding different perspectives, about finding solutions that benefited everyone involved. Some leaders embraced these ideas immediately. Others were more resistant, especially those who had built their power on conflict and division. The third pillar created the most excitement among human scientists. Zaraketh shared technologies that seemed impossible, materials that could repair themselves, computers that worked like living brains, energy sources that enhanced rather than depleted the environment. Your people think technology should dominate nature, she explained to a group of engineers. True technology works with nature, not against it. Look at your own bodies. They are the most advanced technology on your planet, yet they're completely biological. Dr. Hassan was among the first to understand. You're saying we should make our machines more like living things? Exactly, Zaraketh, said, her skin brightening with excitement. When technology is alive, it becomes wise. It knows when to help and when to stop. It grows and learns instead of just following commands. But as the months passed, Alina began to notice something that worried her. Zarakith was becoming more human-like in her emotions and behaviors. She laughed at human jokes, cried at sad movies, and had even developed a fondness for chocolate ice cream. Her skin now stayed in more human-like colors most of the time. "You changing because you're spending so much time with us?" Lena asked one evening as they walked through the facility's gardens. Zaraketh paused beside a fountain, her reflection shimmering in the water. "I think I am. Being around humans has shown me emotions I never knew existed. On Zephyria, we value logic and order above all else. But you've taught me about hope, about the joy of discovery, about the power of friendship." Alina felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the evening sun. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? "I don't know," Zaraketh admitted, her skin shifting to a thoughtful purple. "But I know that I care about humanity now, in a way I never expected. You're not just a species to be judged anymore. You're my friends." This realization brought both hope and fear. Hope because having an alien ally who truly cared about humanity was invaluable. Fear because Alina was beginning to understand that Zaraketh's growing attachment to humans might be seen as a betrayal by her own people. As the 10th month approached, news arrived that made everyone's blood run cold. Long-range telescopes had detected the first signs of the Zephyrian fleet at the edge of the solar system. They were still months away, but they were real, and they were massive. "How many ships are coming?" Alina asked as she and Zaraketh studied the telescope data. Zaraketh's skin turned almost black with worry. "More than I expected. This isn't just an evaluation fleet. This is a full invasion force." Lena felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. "Does that mean your father has already decided to conquer us?" "I don't know," Zaraketh said quietly. "But it means we're running out of time. Humanity needs to show dramatic progress on all 3 pillars, and they need to do it soon." The race against time had begun. Alina couldn't shake the feeling that they were still missing something crucial about it would really take to save humanity. 6 months before the Zephyrian fleet would arrive, the world looked completely different. Alina could hardly believe her eyes as she flew over what used to be the Amazon rainforest. Where once there had been cleared land and dying trees, now a lush green carpet stretched as far as she could see. The Zephyrian biotechnology was working better than anyone had dared to hope. "Look at that," Dr. Park said, from the seat beside her, pointing down at a river that sparkled crystal blue in the sunlight. 3 months ago, that water was so polluted you couldn't see the bottom. Now it's cleaner than mountain spring water." Alina smiled, but her joy was mixed with worry. The environmental changes were happening fast, almost too fast. Around the world, dead coral reefs were blooming with color. Polluted cities were breathing clean air for the first time in decades, and barren deserts were turning green. But she knew that Zaraketh's technology was only part of the solution. The real change was happening in people's hearts and minds. Alina had watched farmers learn to work with their land instead of against it. She had seen factory workers redesign their entire production systems to create zero waste. Children were growing up learning that they were part of nature, not separate from it. But not everyone was happy about these changes. Back at the facility, Alina found Zaraketh in the communications center, her skin a worried shade of gray as she watched news reports from around the world. On one screen, protesters marched through the streets of a major city, carrying signs that read "Humans first" and "No alien control." On another screen, a news anchor was interviewing General Morrison. "The alien has been manipulating our governments for months," Morrison was saying, his face stern and angry. "We're abandoning our sovereignty to appease invaders. This is not how humanity should face a threat." Zaraketh's skin darkened further. "I'm making things worse, aren't I? By trying to help, I'm dividing your people." Lena sat down beside her. "Change is never easy. Some people are afraid of anything different, even if it's better for everyone." Over the past months, Alina had watched Zaraketh become more human in ways both wonderful and concerning. The alien princess now understood human humor, cried at sad movies, and had developed a deep love for Earth's music. But she had also begun experiencing human emotions like doubt, fear, and something Alina was almost certain was love. "Something I need to tell you," Zaraketh said quietly, "about why I really came to Earth." Alina felt her heart skip a beat. What do you mean? Zaraketh's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a deep, honest blue. I didn't crash here by accident. I chose to come, stole a ship and fled Zephoria, because I couldn't bear the thought of what my father was planning to. Due to your world, you're a refugee, Alina realized. You're not here as an official representative of your people. Worse than that, Zaraketh said, and her skin turned almost black. I'm a traitor. If my father discovers the truth, he'll consider me an enemy of the Empire, as anyone who has helped me will be considered an enemy too. Before Alina could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and Dr. Hassan's voice came over the intercom. Security breach. All personnel, 2 safe rooms immediately. Alina and Zaraketh rushed to the control room, where they found chaos. Military vehicles surrounded the facility, and soldiers were already inside the building. On the security monitors, Alina could see General Morrison leading a team of armed troops through the corridors. He's coming for me, Zaraketh said, her skin shifting to a defensive silver color. Not if I can help it, Alina replied, grabbing Zaraketh's hand. There's an emergency exit through the lab. We can, but it was too late. The doors burst open, and Morrison entered with a dozen soldiers. Their weapons weren't pointed at Zaraketh, Alina noticed. They were pointed at her. Dr. Vasquez Morrison said coldly, You're under arrest for treason against the human species. Treason. Alina couldn't believe what she was hearing. I'm trying to save humanity. By helping an alien manipulate our entire civilization, Morrison replied. Did you really think we wouldn't figure out that she's been changing our technology? Our agriculture? Even our thinking patterns? This isn't cooperation. It's conquest through subtlety. Zaraketh stepped forward, her skin now blazing with angry red colors. General Morrison, you're making a terrible mistake. Everything I've taught your people has been designed to help them pass my father's tests. Your father's tests are rigged, Morrison shot back. No matter what we do, your people will find an excuse to conquer us. It's the only way humanity survives, is by fighting back. Alina watched in horror as the situation spiraled out of control. Morrison's soldiers moved to arrest her, but Zaraketh suddenly stepped between them. Don't touch her, the alien princess said. And for the first time since Alina had known her, Zaraketh looked truly dangerous. The confrontation might have escalated into violence. But Dr. Chen's voice suddenly echoed through the facility's speakers. General Morrison, you need to see this. Now. On the main screen, a live satellite feed showed the night sky over the Pacific Ocean, and there, clearly visible even from Earth, were lights that definitely weren't stars. The Zephyrien Advance Fleet had arrived early. They're here, Zaraketh whispered, her skin turning pale with shock. But they're not supposed to arrive for another 6 months. Morrison lowered his weapon, his face grim. How many ships? Zaraketh studied the display, counting the lights. 12 scout vessels. They're probably doing preliminary scans of your planet. Her skin shifted to a worried purple. But this is wrong. The main fleet isn't supposed to be here yet, Alina felt a chill run down her spine. What does this mean? It means my father has changed his plans, Zaraketh said quietly. He's no longer interested in testing humanity. He's decided to proceed directly to invasion. The room fell silent except for the hum of computers and the distant sound of helicopters outside. Alina looked around at the faces of the people she had worked with for months, scientists, soldiers, world leaders who had all been working toward the same goal of saving humanity. Now that goal seemed impossibly far away. Is there something else? Zaraketh said, her voice barely above a whisper. The early arrival means they've detected my presence on Earth. They know I'm here. Morrison stepped closer. Does that mean for us? Zaraketh's skin cycled through several colors before settling on a determined gold. It means they'll want to capture me before they begin their final assault. And it means that everyone who has been helping me is now considered an enemy of the Zephyrien Empire. Alina felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. In trying to save humanity, they had made themselves targets. But as she looked at Zaraketh, she realized something important. The alien princess was no longer the scared, injured refugee they had found in the Amazon. She had grown stronger, more confident, and more human. And despite the danger, Elena knew she would stand by her friend, no matter what came next. "So what do we do?" Elena asked. Zaraketh looked at the screen showing the alien ships, then at the humans around her. "We do what humans do best," she said, her skin brightening with hope. "We fight for what we believe in. But first, I need to tell you a secret that might be our only chance for survival." The secret that Zaraketh had been hiding changed everything. As she stood in the facility's main hall, surrounded by humans who had risked their lives to help her, she finally revealed the truth that could save or doom them all.
"Oh, my father isn't?"
"Just the Emperor of the Zephyrian Empire," she said, her skin glowing with nervous energy. "Is also bound by ancient laws that even he cannot break. One of those laws states that if a member of the royal family vouches for a species, that species must be given a fair trial." Elena felt a spark of hope. "You mean you can speak for humanity?" "Yes, but there's a cost," Zaraketh replied, her skin darkening. "If I vouch for you and you fail the trial, I will be executed alongside your species leaders. And if my father discovers that I've been helping you as a refugee rather than an official ambassador, he might refuse to honor the law at all." General Morrison, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. "What kind of trial are we talking about?" Zaraketh walked to the main display, which still showed the Zephyrian scout ships hovering in Earth's orbit. "The trial of 3 choices. My father will present humanity with 3 challenges, each more difficult than the last. You must succeed at all 3 to earn your freedom. And if we fail?" Dr. Chen asked. "Then Earth becomes a colony of the Zephyrian Empire, and humanity loses its independence forever." The next week passed in a blur of preparation. World leaders gathered in New York. Scientists worked around the clock to demonstrate humanity's progress, and ordinary people around the globe watched the skies with a mixture of fear and hope. The scout ships had been joined by larger vessels, and now the entire Zephyrian fleet was visible as bright stars that moved across the heavens. Elena barely slept during those final days. She spent every moment with Zaraketh, helping her prepare for what might be their last chance to save humanity. The alien princess had grown more human-like than ever, but Elena could see the weight of her homeworld pressing down on her. "Are you afraid?" Elena asked one evening as they stood on the facility's roof, looking up at the alien fleet. "Terrified," Zaraketh admitted, her skin shifting through pale blues and grays. "I haven't seen my father in over a year. The last time we spoke, I told him that conquering peaceful species was wrong. He was ... not pleased." Elena took her friend's hand, feeling the warm, slightly electric touch of alien skin. "Whatever happens, I want you to know that you've already changed everything. Even if we don't pass these trials, humanity is better because of what you taught us." The next morning, everything changed. It's a massive ship, larger than anything humans had ever seen, descended through Earth's atmosphere and positioned itself above the United Nations building in New York. It didn't land, but simply hung there like a second moon, casting shadows across the entire city. Elena and Zaraketh were flown to New York, along with representatives from every nation on Earth. As their helicopter approached the city, Elena gasped at the sight of the Zephyrian flagship. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Organic curves mixed with crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. "That's the Eternal Dawn," Zaraketh said quietly. "My father's personal vessel. I was born on that ship." Inside the United Nations building, a strange transformation had taken place. The General Assembly Hall had been modified with Zephyrian technology, creating a space that seemed to exist somewhere between Earth and the stars. The ceiling showed a perfect view of space, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. When Emperor Thraxvok materialized in the center of the hall, Elena understood why Zaraketh had been so afraid. He was massive, at least 8 feet tall, with skin that shifted between deep purple and black. His eyes were like looking into the depths of space itself, and when he spoke, his voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Humans of Earth," he began, his gaze sweeping across the assembled leaders. "My daughter has requested that you be given the chance to prove your worth. Against my better judgment, I have agreed." Elena saw Zaraketh flinch when her father called her his daughter. There was no warmth in the Emperor's voice, only cold formality. "You will face 3 trials," the Emperor continued. "First, you must prove you can protect what you love. Second, you must prove you can sacrifice for others. Third, you must prove you can choose wisdom over power." The first trial began immediately. The Emperor raised his hand, and suddenly every screen in the hall showed the same terrifying image: a massive asteroid, the size of a small mountain, heading directly toward Earth. But this wasn't just any asteroid, it was aimed at the city of Mumbai, home to 20 million people. "You have 2 hours to stop this asteroid," the Emperor announced. "You may use any means at your disposal." Elena's heart raced as she watched world leaders frantically communicate with their military commanders. She knew that humanity had nuclear weapons powerful enough to destroy the asteroid. But using them would prove to the Emperor that humans still thought violence was the answer to every problem. "Wait," Zaraketh said, standing up from her seat. "There's another way." For the next hour and 50 minutes, Alina watched the most amazing display of human cooperation she had ever seen. Instead of firing weapons at the asteroid, scientists and engineers from around the world worked together to implement a plan that Zaraketh had whispered to Alina during the chaos. Using the biotechnology that Zaraketh had shared, along with human engineering and the collective effort of space agencies from 12 different countries, it created a network of organic deflection systems. It's like giant space-based plants. These systems gently pushed against the asteroid, redirecting its path away from Earth. When the asteroid safely passed by the planet, the Emperor's expression didn't change, but Alina noticed that Zaraketh's skin brightened slightly. The second trial was even more challenging. The Emperor transported the entire assembly to what appeared to be a virtual version of Earth, where they could see humanity's future playing out in fast forward. They watched as climate change, war, and resource depletion led to suffering on a massive scale. "You can prevent this future," the Emperor said, "but only by accepting Zephyrian rule. We will provide technology and guidance that will eliminate poverty, end war, and heal your planet. All you must do is surrender your independence." Alina held her breath as she watched world leaders wrestle with the decision. It would be so easy to say yes, to let a more advanced civilization solve all of humanity's problems. But she could see in their faces that they understood what they would be giving up. One by one, the leaders stood and rejected the offer. They chose to struggle and grow and make mistakes as a free species rather than live in comfort as subjects of an empire. The Emperor's skin shifted to a darker color, but again, Alina noticed that Zaraketh looked pleased. The final trial was the simplest and the hardest. The Emperor offered humanity one piece of technology, a device that could give unlimited clean energy to the entire planet, ending resource scarcity forever. But there was a condition. This device, the Emperor said, requires the life force of one sentient being to activate it. Choose who will die so that your species may prosper. The hall fell silent. Lena could see the anguish on every face as people realized what was being asked of them. Some leaders began to volunteer themselves, while others argued about who should make such a sacrifice. But then Zaraketh stood up, her skin glowing with the brightest light Alina had ever seen from her. "Father," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "There is a fourth option that you haven't mentioned." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Humans can choose to reject the device entirely," Zaraketh said. "They can choose to solve their energy problems themselves without taking any life. They can choose to grow and learn instead of taking shortcuts." Alina watched as understanding dawned on the faces around her. One by one, the world leaders stood and rejected the device. They chose the harder path, the path that would require decades of work and innovation, but would not cost a single life. For the first time since his arrival, Emperor Thraxvox smiled. "Impressive," he said, his voice actually containing a note of approval. "You have passed all 3 trials. You have shown that you can protect without destroying, sacrifice your comfort without sacrificing your freedom, and choose wisdom even when it is difficult." The Emperor turned to his daughter, and Alina saw something she had never expected in his ancient eyes: pride. "It seems," he said to Zaraketh, "that your faith in this species was justified. Humanity will be granted membership in the galactic community as an independent species." And you, my daughter, have proven yourself to be a worthy princess of our people." As the Zephyrian fleet began its journey back to the stars, Alina found herself standing beside Zaraketh on the roof of the United Nations building. The alien princess had chosen to stay on Earth as humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy. "We did it," Alina said, hardly able to believe it was over. Zaraketh's skin glowed with warm, happy colors as she looked out over the city below. "No," she said, smiling, "you did it. Humanity saved itself. Just helped you remember who you really are." Above them, the stars seemed brighter than ever before. And Alina knew that for the first time in human history, they were not alone in the universe.